Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. And on this day, now I said I might do this every day, depending on if there's anything to actually talk about that day. But on this day, we'll always try and find one fight. In 1942, Joe Louis stopped Abe Simon in round number 6 to retain the heavyweight championship at Madison Square Garden. It was his 21st defence, and because of the war, would only fight once over the next 4 years. So maybe a little bit of a Muhammad Ali situation. We didn't quite see the best of Joe Louis, although having that being his 21st defence, you would think that he'd had a good innings by then. Actually, I was reading through something the other day with the longest reigning heavyweight champions of all time. I think I might have saved it on my phone. If I've got time, I'll go over that. But in the today's news, yesterday the Rose Boys or Box Rec or someone maybe was listening to our video, because I was talking about Andrei Mikhailovich not being on Box Rec and saying he was on the card against Blake Wells, but wasn't actually on Box Rec. And the Joel Taylor-Jake Wiley fight was cancelled, of course, because of Jake Wiley fighting George. But today it has been re-added. So the official card, just quickly, the main prelims: Cooper O'Connell, Benjamin Amos making his debut. Cooper, Callum Peters against William Lenahan. So that's been updated. Brent Walton against Asayas Seti. Cody Beacon against Ryan Day. Andrei Mikhailovich against Blake Wells. So there it is there. Then we have the main fights: Brendan Grush, Liam Taliva, Andre Saavedra, Mikkel Nielsen, and Cole Mazudia, Dan Hill. And then the big one, Tim Tszyu, Joey Spencer. So that is the official card. I'm pretty sure there was 10 or 11 fights at one stage. Not all, of course, on the main card. They have a pre-card in the main card. They have a prelims to the prelims almost. So that is the updated card there. Now, our man, actually, before I get to him, Jermall Charlo, I was just about to talk about Terence Crawford. He's upset a few people, but Jermall Charlo, so the middleweight version, has announced he'll be back on May 31st, PBC in Las Vegas. So no opponent or anything just announced yet, but with Caleb Plant looking like he's going to fight Edgar Berlanga on that card, you would think that they're going to try and set up that potential Plant or Berlanga fight with Charlo, because of course Plant and Charlo have got the history of the slap. Remember, out the back, Plant slapped Charlo. Not good for a boxer with they all have egos and massive egos. Wouldn't have went down with Jermall Charlo well at all. So that will have a bit of spice in it. So I think that's what they're going to try and set up. Although I think, from what I've seen, I'm not a big fan of Edgar Berlanga either, but I think he's a good chance to actually beat Caleb Plant. But anyway, as I said yesterday, not overly excited about the fight. If it happens, it happens. But it looks like it's going to be at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas on May 31st. So we'll keep a look out for him. Good on him for coming back. He's had all sorts of issues outside the ring. I don't think he's fought since he beat Benavides on, what was it, the Canelo's undercard? It was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years, whatever it was. But good to see him back anyway. Regardless of what you think of fighters, if they've gone through dramas outside the ring, it's always good to have them back. I'm not a big fan of the Charlos, but again, if he manages to come back, good on him. Now, Terence Crawford I mentioned. So he's upset a few people because, of course, he's fighting Canelo Alvarez in September in Vegas at the Allegiant Stadium, which will be fantastic to have a boxing event there, especially one of that size. They should get 60,000, 70,000 there. But he's upset a few people because he's pretty much claimed that if he beats Canelo, he will be probably the third greatest fighter on the pound-for-pound list, behind only Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, I must admit, I nearly spat the coffee out on the computer screen when I read it. It's like, are you kidding me? But look, it just probably goes to show that sometimes your self-worth is maybe not what everyone else sort of perceives you as. Now, make no mistake, Terence Crawford is a fantastic fighter. He'll be a Hall of Famer, no dramas. But geez, he's the biggest fights or boxers on his record or his resume. You would probably think Well, I know he had a few at the lighter divisions, but there wasn't exactly big names there. It wasn't really, I mean, Jeff Horn, can you include him? And then he went up to fight Cal Brooks, Sean Porter, and of course, Errol Spence. But geez, apart from that, the resume is pretty lean. On top of that, only fighting very, very sparingly over the last few years. It's very hard to even consider him in pound-for-pound lists. Definitely pound-for-pound lists of today, maybe the last decade. Yep, okay. But geez, when you're saying that you're above fighters like Duran and Chavez and Harry Greb and even the likes of De La Hoya and Mayweather and Pacquiao, I mean, geez, it's a bold statement, isn't it? And I think Terence just has to understand what actually defines a true pound-for-pound great. And yep, he's had some good wins, as I said, Cal Brook, Sean Porter, Jeff Horn, Errol Spence. I mean, that's pretty much the big four, isn't it, on his record? I know there'll be some arguments about Jeff Horn, some other fighters he's fought, but geez, I think he just doesn't understand what the definition of a pound-for-pound fighter is. And it's not just being super talented and dominating your era like he has. I mean, when it comes to pound-for-pound all-time greats, it comes down to the maybe series of fights you've had with other great fighters, of course, the results in those fights, but it's longevity. It's fighting. I know they don't fight as often these days as they used to, so I'm not going to use that as a criteria. But at least they fought more than once a year, by the way. But they had fights, or a lot of fights against other great fighters and all the best fighters of the era. They might have won some, lost some, drawn some, whatever it might have been. But it was the outcome of those fights. And even in the fights they've lost, some have enhanced their reputations. And it's just having consistent fights against other all-time greats that really define you in future years. And I don't think, I don't think Terence Crawford, apart from the Errol Spence fight, has really come close to having a legacy fight. And that's the problem. All these other fighters out there have had legacy fights, those pound-for-pound greats, not just one. They've had multiple fights, legacy fights. I mean, how could you look at, I'm just going to pick a couple of fighters, Duran, with the fights with Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, of course, the wins over Davey Moore and Iran Barkley, and the wars with Esteban de Jesus, and just this beast of a guy, Chavez, the fights with Taylor and Camacho and Taylor, and it just goes on and on and on, and just fighting regularly. I mean, I'm just picking a couple of fighters, even modern days with Pacquiao and what he's done, and De La Hoya, and I know there's arguments with Mayweather, but still, you see where I'm going. And unfortunately, I don't think Terence Crawford even enters the equation. Certainly been a great fighter in the last sort of decade, but apart from those sort of 3 or 4 wins, that's probably about it. And we haven't seen him, apart from Spence, who was pretty washed if you ask me. I know it's great in hindsight to say that, but a pretty washed Spence. Hasn't fought anyone at the peak. I mean, Crawford and Spence really should have been a Leonard Hearns, or even a Donald Curry, Milton McCrory type of situation, where the two best young American welterweights went at it, and it just didn't measure up. And look, Crawford was a lot to do with that. It's a great performance, but to say that you're number 3 if you beat Canelo, it will be a great win if he does pull it off over Canelo. But as far as being number 3 pound-for-pound fighter of all time, and Terence, I think of this example, you got to check yourself a bit there, mate, because you ain't. So anyway, good luck to him. Should still be a great fight, and again, I think he's a great chance of winning against Canelo, even though that's the unpopular opinion. The only thing, of course, is he hasn't fought at 168 before, struggled at 154 in his last fight. I've got no doubt we'll see a lot better version of him this time, simply because of the fact that it's Canelo Alvarez in the opposite corner, and great fighters step up. And if he is a great fighter, he will step up, even in defeat if that's the case. He'll put on a great performance. So anyway, we shall see in September. Now, there was talk also this week, or probably the last few weeks, and I probably didn't take it seriously, but the jungle drums are beating. I'll just get off there. That Vladimir Klitschko is seriously going to consider coming back to try and win that heavyweight title. I know I spoke about this a few weeks ago, but as I said, it's getting louder and louder. Now, he's just turned 49. So my question is, even in this warped world we live in of boxing rankings and who gets shots and who doesn't, surely a fighter who's just turned 49, who hasn't fought for 8 years, can potentially step in and fight for the heavyweight title. Now, the only one of the two he could possibly fight is probably Daniel Dubois. I doubt that he would fight Alexander Usyk. You would think that they would be friends, both from Ukraine. You would think that Usyk's not going to fight Klitschko. So it's Daniel Dubois. Now, first of all, I think that would end badly for Klitschko, but how could someone, even with the credentials of Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko, possibly qualify for a shot at the title without, at least 3 fights, even 4, in the lead up to getting a world title shot? And now that is the case. Doesn't it sort of throw under the bus everything they're trying, or said they're trying to do with boxing at the moment with the sanctioning bodies? Turki Al-Sheikh I'm talking about, because no doubt it will be in conjunction with that, or it would be, because it's actually Turki Al-Sheikh behind it. Wouldn't that just totally throw out the window all this talk about saving boxing and restoring the reputation of boxing, and, to use the quote, make boxing great again? Wouldn't that just fly in the face of doing that if they could possibly get Klitschko into a world title fight with Daniel Dubois? Or even Usyk, if that did happen to be the case. It is just ridiculous. And hey, it's great to have those ambitions. Apparently he keeps himself in good shape, and that's great. But to think that they're going to throw him in with Daniel Dubois, and even Chisora in with Dubois, he's sort of gone from chocolates to boiled lollies a bit, Dubois, hasn't he? Unless he gets that rematch with Usyk, there's not a lot of options for him. So we'll see how it plays out. But there obviously is also people saying that he shouldn't be allowed to, maybe just persuaded not to pursue that title fight because of the late George Foreman, who passed away last week, of course, that he is the oldest heavyweight champion in history. And if Klitschko beats Dubois or Usyk, he would take that record. Now, I'm not all against that. I mean, if Klitschko earned the shot and won, well, good luck to him. Whoever's got the record is whoever's got the record. But to do it as a bit of a novelty fight and not earn it and just jump in and win a version of the world title, then let's not forget that if it's not Usyk and he does happen to beat Dubois, it's not really the world title anyway, and that creates all sorts of arguments down the line, doesn't it, as well? So good on him for wanting to come back. You're a long time retired. You may as well keep at it while you can. But geez, I don't like to see it. I just mentioned before with the heavyweights, with Klitschko, and who was I talking about before? What was it with Joe Louis? Yeah, so with the longest reigning heavyweight champions, I actually had a bit of a look after I read that about Joe Louis having his 21st defence. I'll just quickly go through the list here, who are the top 10 longest reigning heavyweight champions of all time. It's really fascinating. Let's start with number 10. We'll go down to number 1. Deontay Wilder was actually the 10th longest heavyweight champion in history. 5 years, 1 month and 5 days. That's pretty crazy. And 10 defences too, which is amazing. If you've seen this channel before, you know I don't really rate Wilder high as far as the heavyweights of history goes. But, gee, that's a good achievement, the 10th in history. Number 9 is Vitaly Klitschko, 5 years, 2 months and 4 days. Then we go down to number 8, James J. Jeffries, 5 years, 11 months and 4 days. Number 7, this one surprised me, but I thought it might have been a bit longer, but Muhammad Ali, 5 years, 11 months and 9 days. Number 6, Jack Johnson, 6 years, 3 months and 10 days. Number 5, John L. Sullivan, 7 years and 9 days. Now, this is another one that really surprised me. I didn't think he was champion anywhere near this long. Jack Dempsey was actually world champion for 7 years, 2 months and 19 days. Number 3, Larry Holmes, 7 years, 3 months and 12 days. And speak of the man himself, Vladimir Klitschko. Number 2, 9 years, 7 months and 6 days. So no one's questioning his credentials. It's just his eligibility at this stage is probably what I'm questioning. And then number 1, no surprise here, Joe Louis, world heavyweight champion for 11 years, 8 months and 8 days. So that is one hell of a reign. Now, I always thought that Larry Holmes was number 2, but Vladimir Klitschko, 9 years, 7 months, 6 days. So, as I said, yes, he's very, very well credentialed to put his hat in the ring, but just earn it. At least have one fight. You know, come back and beat a heavyweight contender and then jump in there. But I've got a feeling with Turki Al Sheikh, that's not the way he rolls. And he rules boxing, don't forget. So if he wants Klitschko to fight for a version of that title, you can almost guarantee it's going to happen. But anyway, speaking of great heavyweights, now this is a fighter who never actually fought as a professional. Now, I'm referring to a Cuban boxer named Teofilo Stevenson. Now, there's been a new documentary drop on Teofilo Stevenson. If you don't know who he is, if you're a real boxing fan, you will. But also understand there's a lot of young fans these days who might, especially because of the fact he didn't turn pro. And the reason he didn't turn pro is being from Cuba, communist country, they weren't allowed to turn pro. But has always been talked about as, and this is the weird thing, one of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time, and didn't lace the gloves up for a pro fight. It's amazing. Now, he won 3 gold medals, 72, 76 and 80. So 72 was Munich. New movie about that out at the, coming up as well, which would be great viewing, about the hostage situation there and the athletes that got murdered. So keep a lookout for that one. But that was 72. 76 was Montreal. 1980 was Russia or Moscow. And he was supposed to go to 84 to try and win a 4th world title, but the Cubans boycotted that Olympics and he missed out. There was actually talk at one stage that he was going to fight Muhammad Ali. Apparently the word was out between Bob Arum and, well, he tells the story anyway in the documentary, that the wheels were in motion to actually have Stevenson fight Muhammad Ali. But fascinating viewing. So there's the new documentary that's just out. I think it's about to be launched. It's won all these types of awards at some like film festivals and all this sort of stuff. So if you're not familiar with him, I really implore you to watch the documentary, because this is a guy who was just an idol of Cuba. And this is at a time where tensions were really high between the US and Cuba for different reasons, politically and economically and everything like that, and also on the sporting field. And the fact that they were going to line Muhammad Ali up with Stevenson, almost not necessarily as a sporting event, but a political and power sort of event, who's the best, who knows what would happen if they had a fought. But yeah, I just saw that the documentary is out very soon. So keep a look out for it. Look, if you know who he is and you're a fan, but more importantly, if you don't know who he is, make sure you check it out, because he was probably renowned as the best amateur fighter of all time. He had sort of an heir apparent in the 90s. I remember when I was around, it was Felix Savon from Cuba. I think he won 3 gold medals as well. So, but that was sort of a later on, of course. So another good story. But yep, as I said, check it out. Now, just quickly with the rankings. The new rankings have been out. I think they've been actually out for a couple of weeks, but I haven't got around to going through them yet. So I'll quickly check out how the Aussies are going in the current world ranking. So at heavyweight, this is the interesting one. Where are we? I'll just go back to the start. So Justice Honey is a real mover. So he is ranked number 11 by the WBC, but number 1 by the WBO. So he's definitely in line for a shot down the track in one way or another. So that's huge news for Justice. I know it's probably been out for a few weeks now, but just when I was scrolling through, the fact that he's number 1 there, but also, what did I say with the WBC? Where was he? Number 11. Cruiserweight, of course, we've got Jai Pataya as the champion. Light heavyweight, Connor Wallace. We'll take him. I know he's Irish, but we'll take him. Number 6 with the WBC. He's 7 with the WBO. He is, strangely, not ranked by the WBA, but they are probably the most peculiar out of all of them. Number 2 with the IBF. I think that's it. Well, Imad Katayev is actually ranked number 7 with the IBF as well. It might be ranked by a couple others, but Connor Wallace is probably the main one at light heavyweight. No Paulo Acuso as far as I can see. Oh, yes, he is 15 with the WBC. He's Paulo Acuso. All right, we'll go down to, I don't think there's anyone at the super middleweights. Middleweight. All right, so I'm pretty sure Michael Zarafa is ranked. He is number 8 by the WBA. Andre Mikhailovich, 8 with the IBF. That's Matteo Tapia is 14 with the IBF. Not sure he's ranked anywhere else. Yes, 9 with the WBO. We go down to junior middleweight. And the Zhu brothers both ranked. So Tim is ranked number 10 with the IBF. Nikita 15 with the IBF. Neither ranked with the WBA, but again, who knows what goes on with her. Ranking systems, nothing with the WBC. Then we've got Nikita ranked number 12 by the WBO. So Tim is only ranked in the the IBF. And Nikita ranked with the IBF and the WBO, which is pretty amazing there that he's got a better ranking than Tim. Nothing at welterweight as far as I could see. Super lightweight. All right, so of course we've got George Kambosos, ranked number 3, but number 2 is vacant. If you can have a ranking vacant, that's vacant. That is it. George number 3/number 2 with the IBF. He is not ranked with the other organisations, but Liam Paro is 5 with the WBO, 6 with the WBC, not ranked with the WBA. What else is new? And number 4 with the IBF. Lightweight, and this is a surprising one. Ibrahim Bella has entered the rankings at number 10 with the IBF. So good on Ibrahim Bella. That's it for the Aussies, I think, at lightweight. Super featherweight. Right, Liam Wilson making the move. Number 7 with the IBF. I think he's ranked by... There he is, number 4 with the WBO as well. All right, so good on Liam Wilson there. Nothing at featherweight. Super Bantam. Well, it would be, of course, Sam Goodman. So he's still in line for some big fights. Well, the big fight, really, Sam, because he's still ranked. I'll just take this off to get a little nail in the gate here. There you go, buddy. So he's ranked still number 3 with the WBC. He's ranked 2 with the WBO. He's ranked 5 with the WBA and 1 with the IBF. So he's still in line for that shot at Inouye maybe, even though his name hasn't been mentioned. So not all gloom and doom for Sam Goodman. Then at bantamweight, we've got Jason Maloney. Jesus, keep it down up there. Jason Maloney is only ranked by the one organisation now after that loss and his last fight against Tenshin Nasukawa. So he's ranked, where did I see it? Number 8 by the WBC. That's his only ranking at the moment. And then down at 115, junior bantamweight, Andrew Maloney. Now 4 with the WBO, 3 with the WBC. Again, not ranked with the WBA. WBA doesn't really like Aussies, do they? No one's ranked with them except Michael Zarafa. And he's ranked number 6 with the IBF. So still some opportunities there for the Maloney boys. So that's where all the Aussies stand at the moment. Apologies I've missed one. Surely with all those rankings, someone slipped through. But you get the gist of it anyway. So still a lot of opportunities for the Aussies out there this year, hopefully, on the world scene. So, guys, that is going to do it for today. Hope you have a great Thursday. We'll catch you tomorrow.